Hi guys, I'm going to teach you how to use a spaghetti squash. It's such a great vegetable. You can do so many different things with it, very versatile. A lot of times I use it in the place of pasta for noodles. Okay, so right now what I've done so far is I have my spaghetti squash and I cut it in half lengthwise and I scooped the seeds out of it. I preheated the oven to 350 degrees and it's been baking for almost 45 minutes now. So here's what I'm going to get started while that's finishing up. I'm going to take a 1/4 cup of olive oil and put it into a pan over medium heat. All right, so a 1/4 cup of olive oil in a pan and then on medium heat. Inside that pan, I'm going to put garlic. So this is a head of garlic, and each of the little cloves that break off, that's called a clove. So we're going to be using 5 cloves of garlic. I've already done 4 of them, but here's how you do it. If you have your clove of garlic, you just kind of push and break it and crack it a little bit, and then that skin on the outside should come off pretty easily. Okay, so we have our garlic here, and then we're just going to cut it into each clove into about, a couple, just kind of small pieces there. A little bit smaller than bite size because we want to have some nice sized chunks of roasted garlic in this dish so you really get the flavor. Garlic is really good for you. And it's good to let it also just sit for just a little bit here, and then we'll put it into the pan. While we're letting that sit, so you can see the pieces, they're about that size, okay? While that's sitting, I'm going to take a tomato. I've already done one, so we're using 2 tomatoes. And I'm just going to cut out that little center. Try to save as much of the tomato as you can, and just scoop that right out, like that. And then we're going to dice up this tomato. You'll want to go ahead and keep the seeds, the skin, everything. So I cut it in strips, and then I turn it and cut it this way. All right, so here's about the size of the piece that we want to use. That's about it right there. Okay, so we cut that up, and then we're ready to put our garlic into the olive oil. So we scoop all those tomatoes into a bowl, and I'm going to now take my garlic and just scoop it into the pan where the oil's gotten just a little bit hot now. Once you put that in the pan, just give it a little bit of a shake, okay? All right, and in a little bit, we're going to add some tomatoes into the garlic once it's gotten a nice golden brown. So I've already done 1 piece of the squash, and I'm going to show you how this works. So this is what a yellow spaghetti squash looks like. So you can see I've cut it in half. It's hot. I've scooped out the seeds, and then when you cook it, you want it cut side down. So the 2 halves next to each other, cut side down in a baking dish or on a pan. Okay? So we'll have that. Now, you'll need to be careful because it is pretty hot when it comes out. You might want to let it sit for a little bit. But here's all you do is you take this and you're going to scrape it out on the inside. It's nice to have it sitting down on something so you can kind of push hard into the skin. You don't want to push too hard so that you don't break the skin of the spaghetti squash because you don't want to eat that part of it. So you get it scraped up just a little bit, and then you dump it in there. And I'll scrape a little bit more. So like I said, you can use this in place of pasta. You can put it into soups. It's just a great dish, and it has just a fraction of the calories of regular pasta. It doesn't have white flour in it, so you don't have it turning into sugar into your body either. But it's just a great dish. You can use it as a side dish. You can actually add some meat or chicken into the dish, or fish that I'm going to show you, and make it as a main course. Okay, so there is the spaghetti squash. I want to get all of it out. I hate to waste any of it. Okay, and then once I've got it all in there, I take my fork and I just kind of fluff it. Can you see how it's getting kind of noodle-like in there when it comes out? Now when you buy squash, you want to be sure that you're actually buying spaghetti squash and not a different kind. There's acorn squash, butternut squash. They're all great, but they don't get this kind of effect like noodles like the spaghetti squash does. Hence the name spaghetti squash. Okay, so I've got that. just about flaked up. I'm going to go take a look at the, you want to kind of shake the garlic a little bit and just keep a close watch on it because it can go from a not quite done state to an overcooked state. All right, so we're just going to let that cook a little bit longer and I'll be right back. All right, I'm going to go check on the garlic. All right, it's turned a nice golden brown. You want to be sure that it doesn't stick together, so you kind of keep, like I said, shaking it during that cooking process. Now what I'm going to do is add the 2 tomatoes that I cooked right in on top with all the juice into that garlic and put it back on the stove. Okay, here we have some fresh parsley. You can use basil, parsley, whatever herb you like. And what I do is I don't really like to get the stem in there, so I hold on to it, kind of pull back just to get the tips of the parsley. And then I'm going to cut it up into tiny pieces. And I'm going to want about 1/4 of a cup all together. It doesn't have to be super small, but just little pieces here. And then we're going to pour the tomatoes on top of the squash, add some Parmesan cheese, and then top with some parsley and a little bit of pepper. If you like things a little bit saltier, you can add some salt in there as well, but I find that the Parmesan cheese really adds enough of a saltiness to it for me. Okay, the tomatoes do not cook very long. You just want to get them slightly softened. You also get a nice little juice off of them. When they start to cook, they release a little bit more of the juices, and that mixed in with the olive oil and the garlic, just fantastic. Okay, so you can see they're just slightly softened, and I'm going to put them right in there with my spaghetti squash. Scrape it in. All right, I'm going to stir that in. And then grab my Parmesan cheese, and I have 1/3 cup of Parmesan. I kind of sprinkle that in and give it a nice stir. All right. Then we're going to top this with that parsley. Like I said, we're doing just about 1/4 cup, but again, fresh basil also would be a nice option here. So a little bit of parsley, and then some ground pepper. And if you'd like, you could add a little bit of salt in there too. All right, so there you have it. We've got the spaghetti squash that we cooked for about 40-45 minutes. We've roasted the garlic, probably took about 6-7 minutes altogether. Added the tomatoes for another maybe minute of cooking, and then threw in the Parmesan, the parsley, and this looks fantastic. I wish you could smell it. So good. Okay, thanks. All right, I'm going to teach you how to make one of my favorite snacks. It's what I call the ultimate bar. It's good for you, it gives you energy. When you need just a little something, it's just a perfect thing to pop into your mouth. So here's what we're going to do. Right now I have 1 banana in here. I'm going to take a second banana. And with this, it's also nice if you have some overly ripe bananas that you can go ahead and use up too, so that they don't have to be thrown out. And I just break it up into some pieces and put it into my processor. And then I have a 1/4 cup of melted coconut oil. You can see I use a lot of coconut oil in my house. So here's a big thing of coconut oil that we add into it as well. Just as a little side note, a great breakfast. My kids love it, is I melt a little bit of coconut oil in a pan. I take a banana and I cut it lengthwise and then in half, and I put it into the oil, cut side down, and it gets nice and crispy, and then I flip it over and sprinkle a little bit of flaxseed. Sometimes I'll squeeze a little bit of orange on top, and great breakfast or even for dessert, cooked bananas. Okay, so back to this. So we have a 1/4 cup in there, the bananas. You can use really any nut that you like. I have a 1/2 cup of almonds here. Then we've got about a cup or around 20 dates that we'll put in there. All right, and then I'm going to put in 2 heaping spoons. So kind of like this. One, that's a big one. Won't do the next one quite as big, but scrape that in. And then another one. So some good peanut butter for some protein inside there as well. Put that in there. And then I'm going to add in some chia seeds. Chia seeds, great omega-3 in there. and we're going to put in 1 tablespoon of chia seeds into this mixture as well. So we've got our chia seeds in there. And then lastly, I have some coconut. It's a raw, unsweetened coconut. So please try to get the unsweetened one, it's better. And I'm also putting in a 1/2 cup of that. Okay, so 1/2 cup of the coconut. And you don't have to have exactly that amount, just close enough works. Okay, so then I'm going to put the lid on and go ahead and process this up. We don't want to process it to the point where it's completely smooth, but we do want to get it so it's all well blended and mixed together. I'll go ahead and process it up and show you what it looks like, okay? All right, let's take a look. So again, still a little bit chunky. So it's a little bit got some chunks to it. Those nuts, I can still see some chunks of nuts in there and everything. So I scrape this all off. And then I'm going to scoop it into a pan just about the size of, say, maybe a bread loaf pan, a small pan. And we go ahead and scoop that in there. And then, believe it or not, we're almost done. All you need to do then is put it in the fridge and it will harden, and then cut it up into little bite-sized pieces. And I definitely recommend bite-sized pieces, not large pieces, because the dates do have quite a bit of sugar in them, although it's the good sugar, it's good for you, but you don't want to make it eat too much of these at one time. Oops, I almost forgot to tell you, one other great thing about this mix is you can also take it and use it as a spread. And you can spread it on top of waffles, toast. I like it on top of apples, and you just put a little smear on top of it. If you're lucky enough to be able to find apple chips, it's great to use those to dip into this as well. So really great, has protein, so many good things for you. So try it on, like I said, waffles, toast, apples. Alrighty. Quinoa is so good for us, and there's so many different ways that you can make quinoa. You can use it at breakfast mixed in with a little bit of scrambled egg. You can use it as sprinkled on top of a salad. You can serve it room temperature, hot, cold, all these different options. So I'll tell you about a couple different ways that you can use the quinoa. Specifically today I'm going to show you how to make a Mexican quinoa. So you want to cook it according to what your quinoa package says. For this I'm going to use 2 cups of quinoa, and I have 4 cups of water on the stove. I'm going to add that in. I've already got my water warm just a little bit, but you can also just put the quinoa in when the water is still cold. Put that in, stir it around just a little bit, and you want to let it bring it to a boil, and then once it boils, we're going to turn it down and cover it. Okay? So we're going to turn it up on high heat, let it get going, and then we'll turn it down. And like I said, we're going to be making it as a kind of a Mexican Spanish quinoa. You can use it as a side dish, or you could also add some diced chicken or some shrimp into the recipe and make it your main entree. So what I have here is a red pepper. I've cut it in half, and I've already cut up half of it and put it into the bowl. But when you use the red pepper, you want to just kind of reach in, grab hold of that green stem, and pull it out. And then reach in there and get any of the kind of white membrane, I guess you'd call it, out, and any seeds out. And then we go ahead and we slice it first into strips, not very big, just like that. And then we'll flip it around and cut it up this way. Okay, little pieces. And we're not cooking this or roasting this red pepper, it's just raw. and we'll be putting it in so it's got a nice kind of crisp, fresh taste. This will be a really fresh tasting quinoa that we're making. So again, we've got now an entire red pepper in there. I also have already put into the bowl 1 sliced green onion. So here's the green onion, and I like to go ahead and use all of it. I just cut off the very tip, okay? So I won't be using that. And then I start to slice it. Just very thin little slices like this, all the way. You want to be sure to get all the way through that green onion so it doesn't stick together when you put it in. All right, so let's see. My quinoa is already boiling. Like I said, I had the water already kind of boiling. And now I'm going to turn it way down. And then I'll put a lid on it in just a moment, and then we'll let that cook until all the liquid is absorbed. So again, that's 4 cups of water to 2 cups quinoa. Okay, and this is just about all sliced up here. Great, so I'll put that in. If you have a gas stove, once you turn the heat down, you can go ahead and put the lid on right away. With an electric, you need to be careful because if it's boiling and you put the lid on it and turn it down, it takes a while to get that temperature down, so you might end up boiling over. So mine's adjusting a little bit now, so I'm going to put the lid on it. The next ingredient is an avocado. You go ahead and you can cut that avocado in half, okay, just like that. Open it up and you'll see that there's a pit in there. And you can use the tip of your knife just to get that pit out. I then go ahead and cut this into strips. Makes it a little bit easier to get the skin off. And I take it here, and you'll see now how easily that skin just comes right off the back side. Also, avocados are one of my favorite things to snack on. A lot of times I'll cut them in half and then pour balsamic and olive oil right into it and eat it with a spoon right out of it. So again, you can see in this avocado where the pit was, there's a little bit of a hole, and you can go ahead and use that to hold your balsamic vinegar, olive oil, or sometimes I just do balsamic and a little bit of salt on it. So we'll go ahead now and I'm going to cut up this avocado into some little pieces, about the same size as the pieces I did with my red pepper. Just like that, and we'll put that in. Okay? I'll go ahead and keep cutting these up. I'll let the quinoa cook a little bit longer, and I'll be back. All right, I just checked, and almost all the liquid has now been absorbed in my quinoa. So I'm ready to do the next step. I turn it off, and you can see in here, it's kind of now a little bit flaky inside there, and there's no more liquid coming. So I go ahead and put that all into this pretty bowl. And then I want to just kind of fluff it. So if there's any clumps in there, you can break them up. Now I'm going to go ahead and I have 2/3 a cup of salsa. You can use any kind, green salsa, red salsa. I have a chipotle salsa here, which I like. And then I'm going to add to that a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cumin. Okay, put that right inside there. And we'll just shake that around a little bit. I'm going to now pour that into the quinoa. Stir that around. So remember, there's lots of different ways you can use this. You can do it Italian style with some diced tomatoes, fresh basil, roasted garlic, a little bit of fresh mozzarella in there. You can do it more of an Asian style with some ginger and soy sauce. I also like it if I make a homemade vegetable soup to go ahead and put a scoop of this inside there. Just makes it a little bit more filling, and it gives you some great protein and fiber. All right, so all that's in. So now I'm going to add the rest of the ingredients. The avocados and peppers and green onions. Just there. Another thing that could be nice to add into here would be some black beans, some diced up fresh cilantro, a little lime juice. So a lot of different ways you can do this. And then again, you can serve this room temperature. You can serve it, put it in the fridge and you can serve it cold. Or you can even just serve it hot like it is with the freshness of the vegetable and on top. Okay, so there's some quinoa for you. You can see how delicious that looks. And if you need to add a little salt or pepper to it, that's just to taste. Okay, enjoy!